Hey everyone, welcome to Throwback Thursday. This is the LEGO Creator Expert Bookshop. It is said to be the best modular building ever by some of its fans, and I'm definitely a fan of the design up front. And this is the final modular of its kind, one that is targeted for teenagers in addition to adults, with it being 16 plus, and having the colorful background as opposed to the black box that we got starting the following year after this one. We can see here some of the features of the set, including the modularity, as well as the dimensions. It's basically 25 by 29 centimeters. And I usually don't spend a lot of time on boxes, but I will point out that back in the good old days, LEGO used to include the part list at the top of the box. They do not do this anymore, but you don't need to pause the video. You could get the same part list on LEGO.com, but it's just interesting to see that they put it there. And on the back of the box, you get to see a bunch of scenes related to this set, as well as this set situated in context with the previous two modulars, the downtown diner as well as the corner garage. So yeah, a bunch of nice scenes with the minifigures in various scenarios, so different opportunities for play and display. It shows you here how you can take apart the different sections or modules of the modular building, so that's pretty nice. The other interesting side of the box, one of the sides shows moving day, where people are either moving in or moving out. So we get to see a bed, a planter, a kid with an airplane, some bookshelves, as well as this lamp, which for whatever reason is outside, so maybe it's actually an indoor lamp. So yeah, it's a nice presentation. I personally prefer this style over the newer minimalist style that's completely black box. Enough about the box, let's actually see what's inside and build the set without the instructions. So in this set we get 18 numbered bags numbered from 1 to 8. So we have 2 bags 1, 2 bags 2, 2 bags 3, 3 bags 4, 2 bags 5, 3 bags 6, 2 bags 7, and 2 bags 8. So basically every numbered bag has at least 2 bags with that number, except for 4 and 6, which have 3 each. And in addition to that, we also have 1 unnumbered bag with these plates. And we also get 2 half base plates in green. These are both 16 by 32, and we put them together, they're going to form a 32 by 32 footprint. We also get these instruction manuals, and back in those days, in 2020, LEGO used to include these in a plastic wrap. They don't do that anymore. Now it's paper for sustainability. And this is one of the very first to include a QR code in the bottom corner if you want to use it to scan for the instructions. So that is interesting to see. However, I'll just set these instructions to the side because I will not even open this because I will not be using the instructions. I will look at the 3D view to see how to put this together though. So let's start with bags 1. When I open multiple bags, I'm going to put them in separate piles just for ease of sorting. So I recommend doing that. By the way, the set does include 1 orange brick separator. Bag 1 gives us this boy minifigure, his toy airplane, which is done in a really intelligent way, by the way. I did not realize that this propeller piece actually fits onto one of these pieces, so that's a really nice building technique. Plus, it gives us the plate, the base plate, plus some additional tiling for the bookshop, which is this building we're going to build right here. So we just built this small part, and that's all we do in bag 1. Also have the desk here with the cash register, some nice details, and this fits right here. So I need to shift, I basically need to flip this piece and this piece to shift this one by 1. So the best way to do that, the minimal destruction of what I already built, is probably to push this out from the base plate, or actually I would just remove this wall. We'll access it through these pieces. It's not that many pieces. And while I'm here, I'll mention that I really like the gold used for the tiles here. It's a really luxurious look. So yeah, cash register, it's actually pretty fancy, as well as some books outside. They're held in place by a single stud to make it easy to display them separately, so I like that attention to detail. Bag 2 gives us this minifigure right here, carrying a flower. We got a Moby brick book, some more books on this bookshelf, which goes in right here, as well as the stairs, which are done really nicely using a very interesting building technique. More books over here, as well as the walls, of course, these walls, and the front facade, with the nice part usage being right here, and the nice geometry. So that is very interesting to see. Also, what they did for the stairs, that was also pretty cool. And the idea is basically you have one stud that is holding everything in place so that they don't slide around like they did when I first built this. When we're building with bag 3, we're also going to need a couple of these pieces in the unnumbered bag, specifically these gray plates right here. Bags 3 give us two builds. This build right here of the upper floor of Birch Books, which is called the first floor or second floor, depending on where you are in the world. And we also get this build right here, which is kind of a mezzanine with some books on the side. I might have lost some of the footage of putting all the pieces together towards the end, but most of this is what you see is what you get. And I'll just show you some of the details are maybe a bit nuanced. For example, these stairs are just like the ones below, except for at the top, where we're holding them in place with these plates right here, and we can see them from the outside. So basically just a bunch of plates here that hold on to the last two steps. Here, these windows are pretty much self-explanatory, and the arches on top fit perfectly, and that is by design. This is studs on the side, just like downstairs, same idea. This chair right here, unfortunately, it's not very easy to remove once it's placed inside. So here's a final look at that chair. And this is adjustable. But unfortunately, because it has a lot of anti-studs here, it's not easy to put it and remove it like with some of the more recent modular buildings where everything is easy to remove. So basically you just put it here, and then it's more for display than anything else. Cozy looking chair, fits one minifigure. I wish it was a bit more colorful, but I respect the color choice. Now we can assemble everything together. So again, this goes in the mezzanine right here. And then you take this whole thing and you put it right here. And there we go. That's most of the bookshop half of the set done. Now when it comes to bag 4, remember that there are 3 bags 4. Bags 4 build the uppermost floor of the bookshop and the tree. We get this nice fall tree as well. Now let's put everything together and look at the entire set. So this goes here, and the whole thing is very tall, barely fits in frame. And let's add the tree. The tree is going to be connected to these technicals down here. And just before I cover this up, I'll point out here the nice part usage of the sausage pieces recolored to black to make this circle or rim around the tree planter. And there we go. This tree is easy to insert, but very hard to take out. Just keep that in mind. Alright, now let's look at the set, and we'll start with the minifigures. In the first 4 bags of the set, the bookshop half of this set, we got these 3 minifigures, a boy, a man, and a woman, and they're all smiling with very, very big smiles. They have prints on the back of the front of their torsos, and here's a better look at the boy's printing without the green scarf covering it up. So he has a banana here that's a bit faded, but maybe that's intentional, and the printing is done very nicely at the rear as well. The adults have simpler wear, but that's just fine, and they all have alternative expressions, which is a very good thing. And the boy is upset. We'll find out why in a bit. The man is still smiling, although it's a slight smile, and the woman is pleased. The man has a flower that he's going to be offering probably to the woman, and the woman has a book that she's reading called Moby Brick, which is a play on words off of a book with a very similar name in the real world. And in this book, we see that it reads Once Upon a Time. So that's very interesting. Maybe she's reading the story for herself, or maybe she's reading it to the child, or maybe even the adult. I like the adult minifigures, I think they're fine. I also like the child, but I think they should have given him an alternative headpiece, so give him hair and not just this blue cap for when the weather is warmer. And also, I would have preferred if they had given him the longer legs, or the mid legs, so that they could bend instead of being forced to stand all the time for the rest of his life. But of course, you could easily solve that using your own pieces. So you could tell all sorts of stories with these minifigures. There's a default story that LEGO suggests, and that is that this woman owns the bookshop, and this guy wants to give her a flower to win her over, and this boy is actually the grandson of two other minifigures that we'll see in part 2. That is one possible interpretation, but you could also say that these are the parents and this is their child, or you could all say they're all siblings. It's always up to you. The other small build that we got in this set is this airplane, which is done very nicely. It uses some interesting build techniques that I've not seen before. Specifically, it uses this black piece right here on this other side, so we have two of that piece, and it actually attaches the propeller in this hole of this piece. I didn't even realize that this piece had a hole like this. I never paid attention to that, but apparently you can stick a propeller in here. So that's some very interesting building techniques. And the other interesting thing about this airplane is that we're using this transparent piece here to indicate a windshield, and the wings are attached to this piece very efficiently. So this is a very efficient build. You're doing a lot with very few pieces. It's a bit large compared to a minifigure, so this is either a very rich kid or maybe things are a little bit different in LEGO City. And the reason why the kid is upset is because at some point he loses control of the plane. Maybe it's a remote controlled plane, although we don't get a remote control, and the plane gets stuck somewhere on one of these branches. I'll put it here for now. And later on in part 2, we'll rescue this airplane from this tree. But for now, let's look at the rest of the set. I'm going to give a quick overview of the build, all the stuff that we built, and then I'll go back and talk about the details. So let's take the minifigures out of the way just for now, and we'll have a look at the build overall. There's a 360-degree rotation of the build. You can notice there are no windows on the side because it's intended to attach to other buildings, but at least the lines here are clean. There's no ugly colors, so that's good. The back is a little bit plain. I wish there was a bit more visual interest here, but it's good enough. And these windows here are retro. They remind me of LEGO pieces I had in my childhood. This side is not as good looking with all these brown pieces, but it's still okay. It's not too bad. And finally, we come back to the front with this tree that adds a lot of visual interest to the set. And they're using some nice part usage here with these pieces to basically represent the birch tree. So that's pretty interesting. The tree itself has a bunch of fall leaves. I wish they also included some greener pieces just to give us the option to set this in the summertime. So that would have been nice. And we do get this Twitter bird because back in the day, this bird used to represent Twitter. Unofficially, of course, LEGO never actually got this license. So yeah, now let's take a look a little bit at the details now that we've rotated the whole thing and looked at it from all angles. So we have some leaves here on the sidewalk, a nice tiling in front of the Birch Books store, a door here that opens, and we have some stairs that go up and go down. We'll go back to the interior in a moment, but I'll first point out the books sold here outside. And this is easily removable because it's attached by only one stud. And this is probably the discount books. So the books that are for liquidation, they're put outside so that they get rid of them quickly. That's one probable interpretation. Or maybe they ran out of space in the bookstore, although we'll see that they did not run out of space. But here's a perspective as a minifigure looking in. Yeah, so that's an interesting view right there. We have some large windows as well to let lots of light into this floor, which would otherwise be quite dark. Now, because it's a modular building, we can remove these modules and look inside. And in fact, these two floors right here are not as tall as this first floor or ground floor, depending on what you want to call it. So let's have a look over here. So we can actually remove this part, which I call the mezzanine, and we'll look at that separately. But first, basically you come in as a customer, you go down these steps, and you see that the floor is very nicely tiled off with the light yellow, the flame orangish yellow, as well as the gold, which is my favorite. And I like how they use these pieces together to tile everything off and make it look nice and consistent. We have a cash register here with a single stud where one of the minifigures can stand. So in the box and in the promotional videos for the set, it's shown to be the woman, but you could put any minifigure that you want over there, basically to bring up the cash register. And there's books, of course, in a bookshop. There's books over here, as well as this taller shelf right here with more books. Although there are no studs where you could attach minifigures here if you want to stand and browse the books in the store. So I would have appreciated if we got like one stud over here close to this bookshelf, another one close to this bookshelf, and another one in front of the cash register. So you need to modify the set to make those changes. At the entrance, it's easier to see this from the inside looking out. There's these transparent green pieces, which give a nice retro look. These used to be a lot more popular in the past, so this is kind of reminiscent of those good old days. I think that's what they're trying to do here. And we see a bit of that transparent green from here as well. So it's a nice mix of old and new. And the spiral staircase is built using some very interesting techniques. Watch the speed build to find out how. And basically it goes up to the mezzanine, which is this thing right here. And this one includes just a few books right here on the side, and then these stairs go up to an upper floor. It's because of these pieces right here that we have that brown color showing up on the outside, and maybe at the time that LEGO made the set, this piece did not exist in the nougat color, so they just used regular brown. Although I really wish they would have recolored it just to make it consistent, because the same piece here, here, and here. Or maybe it's an intentional choice, that I don't know. So we'll put this back, and we'll take a look upstairs. I'll just point out that these studs are left exposed here. They're part of the wheel arches, which is some nice part usage, but I just wish that they added some cheese slopes or something just to make this look a little bit nicer. Just like what they did here, for example, that looks better. And pointing out the sign, these are two printed pieces. This is drum lacquered gold, so that's nice. And this arch right here is done using some interesting building techniques. It's all just a bunch of 1x1s and 1x2s, but it's pretty nice. And all of this stuff here is done with studs on the side. So there's lots of interesting building techniques. It's not just bricks on top of bricks, which is nice. And we have these two exposed Technic pins here are actually to connect to the other part of this set, which I will build in part 2. So I've left them here for now just as a reminder, but of course if you're displaying this separately, you can just remove the pins and it'll be just fine. On the backyard, we got absolutely nothing on this side except for the door, the back door. There's no plants, no flowers, nothing, and I wish they included at least a little something here, just to add some visual interest, but maybe they ran out of budget. So that's pretty much everything to see for this ground floor. Let's set it aside and talk about the upper floors, starting with the middle one. So the minifigures are going to come up from down below, from down here, and they arrive at this room. So what do we see here? We have one chair that's done completely in black, a table that's very simple, and a grandfather clock that looks very nice, has some nice gold pieces used in it, and we also have this nice lamp. The windows here look very nice, they're very large. And I like the use of the ledge here to add additional detail, using some jumper pieces here to offset the windows by half a stud. And so you see here that offset, and that looks really nice. And again, we have a spiral staircase. So that's pretty nice to see as well, although I wish the pieces used here matched the exterior. They could have modified this just a little bit to make that possible. There's a coffee mug, and the rug here uses olive green and lime green, which is nice to see. Although the gray color here, the light bluish gray used for the floor here makes me think it might be cement or concrete, which is not my preference. I wish they used a different color here, but it's fine enough as it is. And outside we have a balcony with 2 chairs, with another coffee mug, as well as these windows that remind me of the ones from my childhood. So these are always welcome, and I like to see them, even though they're a bit retro. And this door opens from the inside and not the outside, which makes sense, although I do wish they would add another stud here, although you could add one very easily using the extra pieces. Now we take this and we put it right here, and this is attached to the main floor, the ground floor, using 4 studs, 2 on this side, 2 on the other side. Very easy to attach like that. And then that brings us to the uppermost floor, which has some very interesting building techniques here at the front. This part here is crazy. It has all sorts of weird angles and stuff. It's very fun to build, especially without the instructions. I was missing one piece here, one of the window frames. I got an extra one of these pieces instead, so I had to borrow a piece from my own collection to finish the build. I was able to do that at least. We have some nice part usage here with the microphones and with these skeleton legs recolored to black, so that's pretty interesting to see. Some of these pieces are not held on very well though, so they're easy to knock off, so just watch out. And here, this whole thing, this whole back of the roof removes for easier access to the topmost floor, which the minifigures can access from this point here because the spiral staircase is going to bring them up here. So here we have a single bed done in teal, which is very nice, plus this chameleon, which is very rare and changes colors based on its surroundings, and here it's next to the teal bed, so it has colored itself in teal. So that's always very nice to see. The bed uses some nice part usage as well with these microphones done in black for the bedpost. There's otherwise not much else to see in this room, and here I would have expected to see some posters or something, but in fact it's all completely plain, so a little bit disappointing, but nothing that you can't fix, again, using a little bit of your own pieces. I'll remove this. It's not intended to be removed very easily, but I will remove it just to show you a little bit of how they built this part right here. You see all sorts of funky colors and angles just to make this whole thing work. So that was pretty interesting to me. I'll put this back. I'll put this back. And I will put the minifigures here just to show you what they would look like and give this a bit more life and context. So you have here the woman is reading the Moby Brick story, and these 2 are listening, although they don't have any places to sit. They just have to stand there. And apparently they're really enjoying the story. They're very happy to listen to what's going on. And let's see if we can see them from here. We can see them a little bit, but it's kind of hard through these windows. Even in person, it's hard to see. So yeah, it's a nice scene. You can play things out a bit here, although it's a little bit cramped when you want to move like this guy over here. As an adult, you can do it, but it's not the easiest thing to do. So it's a little bit cramped in this floor compared to the ground floor, this one right here. Or the roof, which is not as cramped. Well, it's not as large, but you can also remove this whole roof and have very easy access. So that's where the debate over closed back versus open back comes in. And this one, it is fully enclosed, but this one is kind of open back because you can just remove this and literally open the back. I wish they could have done something similar here, like if they remove this whole wall. I know other LEGO sets you have the idea where you could just hinge this open and just remove it and have very easy access to the inside. Or if they made the spiral staircase very easy to remove, I think that would have been a plus. And also this furniture is not easy to move around because it's held with all of its studs, and not just with one stud like we did with the bookshelf right here. So I wish they paid a little bit more attention to that. But overall, the build is very successful, and this is indeed one of my favorite LEGO sets just because of the way it looks and the way it makes me feel. It brings me back to my childhood. I always wished that I could build something just like this for my minifigures to play with, and it's not perfect, but it's a very good set in what it sets out to do, and I'm very happy with it. Now, let's do some size comparisons. I'll bring a Speed Champions car. This is the Lamborghini Countach, which I also built without the instructions previously, and we'll see what this looks like next to the bookshop. So I think the car is a little bit oversized compared to the bookshop. Not by much, but you can see, like, because it's 8 wide, it is really wide. Like, this would be more of the size of a small truck compared to this building if it was real life. But of course it's LEGO, so proportions are not going to be identical or anything, but it's close enough. Like, if I show you this and you're not measuring in millimeters, like, it's close enough. So you could use your Speed Champions cars with your modular buildings, and a lot of people do that. So that's definitely possible. The next comparison I want to do is with the LEGO Creator Cozy House. So this set came out right before this set retired, so there was a short period of time in 2023 when both of these were available on store shelves. And I do think that, even though they're not officially meant to go together, but they are part of the same theme, and I do think that they go well enough together. And in fact, the official townhouse of the bookshop uses a lot of the same colors that the Cozy House uses. So if you put this in your Lego city, you're not very strict about connecting things with the Technic pins, and no one says that you have to do that, then I think that these two actually go quite nicely together. Of course, they're not done to the same scale or price, but they do look decently well together. And maybe a little bit of distance between them can help. You might add like an alleyway here, or like a park or a street or something. And here's a look from the sides. So you see, again, this one is a bit larger, but it's also reflective of what you would see in real life. So yeah, I think that these two go surprisingly well together, even though they're not necessarily meant to be. And let's see them from the back. So this one's actually more interesting from the back because we have a bit of foliage right here. We have this pavement. I wish they added something like this over here. I think that would have made it look a little bit nicer. But again, these are small things. And the cozy house, you may remember, actually opens up like this. So this is how you would play with it. And here you have very easy access for the minifigures in all parts of the house. So because it's a smaller set, it's easier to access also because it hinges open. So maybe what they could have done here is they could have made this hinge open. I know there's other modular buildings where you can actually open things like that and gain access. So again, if you get this set for yourself, or if you already have it, there's lots of ways to make it even better by using your own custom parts. And you can check the community on YouTube because there's lots of people that have got this set since it's been around for a while and they've improved it in so many ways. I want to do a size comparison with this truck that I built recently, the Volvo FMX truck. And I did say in that review that this truck should be able to fit a modular building. Well, now let's try that for real. So I'm going to take this bookshop, I'll put it on the side, and I'll just hold it carefully from the ground floor, not from the upper floors, and put it up here. And it looks like it will fit just about right. So let's try to move it around. You gotta lock the trailer in place first. Okay, now you can move it around. You gotta see what that looks like. So it is possible, although this thing is not going to go under any bridges unless they're very, 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 very high. But at least it is possible. What's more realistic is if you transport only one module at a time, you can actually transport them like side by side. Like you say, you transport this plus this. Oops, yeah, these fit together. And because it's Lego, it actually makes sense that you're going to transport stuff in modules instead of all at once. So something like this might actually make more sense. Yeah, some adjustments might be needed to make this fit perfectly, but it's off by like 1 or 2 studs. So you could transport the bookshop on this truck, although I recommend separating it into parts, or maybe making multiple trips. First you do just 2 parts, and then later you come back for the 3rd part. So that's always up to you. And as a reminder, I did have to remove these pieces 2 times each of these from the truck bed just to accommodate the house. But again, that's something that's very easy to do. One other thing you might want to know is, can you make one of the floors optional? So let's say you're a bit restricted in terms of space, and you just want to do this. I don't think this looks as good. It still looks okay, but it's just not the same with that middle floor missing. I don't know what it is, but it just feels like having these in the design is very essential, and removing them, something just feels a little bit off with this one. But besides that, this won't work out of the box because you have this big hole that you need to solve for. And then the spiral staircase, at least the spiral staircase is gonna, well, it's not spiral in this case, but at least the staircase is going to match exactly. So if you wanted to do this, then you'd have to change this up a little bit to make it fit. But it's not the worst idea ever. But it's just something that I think LEGO did not plan for when designing the set, like having optional floors. Because it would have been better if this was like a little bit larger, just to make that possible for those who want to do it. Well, if we bring this back by 1 stud. Okay, so now we have only one stud worth of stuff to block out from here. And here it looks, I don't know if I like this gray ledge, but at least it's something. It's something. So I like that LEGO gives you options and you can always change things around. And while I'm here, I'll point out that this roof right here, I would have preferred if they included windows somehow or made some of these pieces transparent. I don't know how they would have done that exactly, but it would have been nice to have the people in this bedroom have windows not just from the front, but also towards the back. Or the sides, but preferably the back. And I'll also point out that for this topmost floor, there's a bunch of stuff here on the inside if you look closely that you might not want to see, but I interpret this as being part of the charm of the house. Like, it's perfect because it's imperfect, so it's more human that way compared to the modular buildings that came afterwards and were designed for adults. So see here, for example, this piece does not match this piece exactly in color, but it's kind of rustic. It has this certain charm to it that the other modulars lack despite their sophistication. So yeah, I don't think this is too much of a bad thing, just like with the Palace Cinema. It was not perfect, but it had a certain charm to it, and I really liked that set, and I like this one as well. So after building 1/2 of the bookshop, I'm very happy with it. I'm very excited to build the second half. I'll give my overall thoughts on the set after I build the second half, but in the meantime, please make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, and be sure to check out all my videos coming up very soon about various LEGO themes and topics, including more modular buildings I'll be comparing with this one. So stay tuned for that. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you all in the next one.